Name one characteristic of Renaissance music.
Polyphony, usually imitation.
Good. Who was the composer known as the red-haired priest?
Antonio Vivaldi.
Yes. Which composer was born in Belgium in 1530?
Orlando di Lasso.
Yes. How would you classify Bach's Saint Anne Fugue?
It's a 5-voice triple fugue for organ with 3 subjects introduced into 3 separate sections.
What key?
E flat.
Great. Your final exam is tomorrow, and it's going to be a whopper. But it seems like you guys are well prepared, so review your notes, and I will see you first thing in the morning. Dan, could I have a word with you?
Yeah.
Dan, you've really let your grades slip in this class. Your quizzes have not been great. I can't remember the last time you turned in a homework assignment, and I'm not convinced you're ready to take your final. And you're going to need a small miracle to pass for this year.
Yeah, good, yeah. I'll be fine, I'll be fine.
Is that right? Which composer subtitled his symphony From the New World?
Imagine Dragons.
No, Dan, that's On the Top of the World. How about this? In which era did symphonies become longer and more elaborate?
That building in Boston?
No, Dan, that's Symphony Hall. I suggest you study tonight. A lot.
Dan! No, Dan. You're asleep. You fell asleep watching Star Wars. Well, I'm here to help you, Dan. John Williams. The same. Music history is a fascinating subject, Dan. You can really hear and see how music evolved through the ages along with art, architecture, even fashion. Since you're dreaming, this shouldn't be too hard. Where should we begin? Dan, the Renaissance was an exciting time of great discovery and innovation. Music was no exception, and composers were taking quite a few liberties with harmony since they were not bound by church rules. Well, for starters, it was used to announce the arrival of guests in kingdoms of old. Well, they added more voices. Women were not allowed to sing in church, but outside church, it was fine. So with all of these extra voices around, polyphonic music was born. Madrigal singing at parties was a great source of entertainment in the Renaissance. Yes, but toward the end of the Renaissance era, which was when? Right. Around this time, composers were getting a little carried away with all the extra voices, and equal temperament was invented. It's not really one person, Dan, although it is kind of difficult to discuss the Baroque era without mentioning Johann Sebastian Bach. The invention of keyboard instruments, such as the accordion, the harpsichord, clavier, and the church organ, which was Bach's favorite, led to the standardization of the 12-note system that we use today, where a piece of music could be played in one key and then transposed to another key easily. No, Bach didn't invent equal temperament, but he did write a book called The Well-Tempered Clavier that really highlighted the new system and got everyone excited about the new sound. Well, kind of like that, I suppose. Most of Bach's works, including the Well-Tempered Clavier, featured a short melodic idea called the subject, and then the other voices would come in one at a time and weave a counter-melody along to the subject. The ideas would develop throughout the piece. Independence between parts and establishing key centers was of the utmost importance. Well, folks got tired of hearing all of those independent melodies playing at the same time, and it became very popular to write a single, memorable melody with accompaniment. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was the master of this style. Do you know this one? Mozart. The thing about the classical era was that the beauty of the melody was the most important element, and that writing 4 separate melodies at the same time, like the Baroque era, was not as popular. It was a simpler time, right around the time of the American Revolution, the Declaration of Independence, three-cornered hats, and Yankee Doodle. Right, classical era. How about some more Mozart? Well, the Romantic era ensued. The Industrial Revolution happened. Everything got bigger. We got the Brooklyn Bridge, we got the Eiffel Tower, and the piston valve was invented too. Yes, it was a big deal for the trumpet players. Triumph over adversity was a common theme. The afterglow of both the French and the American Revolution were reflected in the music, the art, and the architecture. The symphonies got longer, and there were more members in the orchestra. And because of the Industrial Revolution, we were able to create better quality instruments, capable of a broader range, and they played more in tune. Romantic music doesn't sound as cute as classical era music. The music is much more emotional, and composers wrote in broad, lush strokes. There were still great melodies, but they were intensified. I borrowed a few of these melodies for some of my film music. Have a listen. Of course, there's the 20th century and the modern era. But does your test go up that far? Okay. As with most styles and fads, people got tired of hearing the same thing after a while. Some composers continued to use big orchestras, and others went in the opposite direction with smaller settings of music. They all had one thing in common, though. They began to stretch harmony to the breaking point. A lot of the rules that govern tonal harmony for the last 4 centuries were ignored. Melodies became interesting, and sometimes a bit unusual. Have a listen to this. Well, there's so much. After the inventive melodies of the 20th century, we saw many different styles of music emerge. African music merged with the blues from New Orleans and gave birth to jazz. which turned into rock and roll, which turned into